Hey everybody, today we're going behind the scenes of two cattle farms to learn how their decisions on nutrition, herd health, and management directly influence the animal's well-being and the success of the operation. Hey everybody, we're in Opelika, Alabama at R.L.M. Cattle Company, and we're here with Jason and Jack, and so they're going to tell us a little bit about where we are and what we're doing here today. So Jack, I'm going to start it with you. Tell us a little bit about the farm.
Okay, my name is Jack Robertson with R.L.M. Cattle Company. We are a commercial cow-calf operation. We run about 1,700 mama cows and produce on hay, and we do a little bit of finishing with the feedlot, but mostly just feeders that we send out west to be fed. It's myself and two partners, Gaines Lanier and Jason McKay, make up the R.L.M. Cattle Company, and we welcome to have everybody here today in Casita, Alabama.
All right, thanks for having us. Jason, tell us a little bit about your work.
Yep, so my name's Jason Edmondson. I work for ADM Animal Nutrition. I'm a beef nutrition specialist for the Eastern United States, and have the pleasure to work with Mr. Jack here building rations on the farm here and helping any way that I can for him. I'm an Auburn graduate twice, and I worked at Auburn University for about 15 years, and then have been with ADM for 8 years since then.
All right, well, can you guys show us a little bit about how you work together, what it is you're looking at on the farm?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So, Jason, tell me, what is ADM?
Okay. Well, ADM is a global nutrition company. We service 180 countries, maybe even a few more than that. We have about 700 facilities across the globe. 380 of those are grain procurement or ingredient procurement, so we buy products from the farmers. And then about 320 are for processing, further processing for food or feed systems. So we do a lot of processing on the food side for human consumption, and then we have byproduct utilization through our animal nutrition company.
So how do you work specifically with R.L.M.?
Okay, so Mr. Jack and I work together. We've known each other for quite a long time, and so every year we essentially meet before he weans calves, and we look at the forages that he's put together. We sample those forages. He does a wonderful job sampling forages, and I get copies of that analysis. And then we look at other ingredients, the price of other ingredients, and then his availability. So not only what it costs, but can he get enough of it? Is it a consistent source? And the rations we put together at this particular ranch are forage-based rations. So we are trying to use other ingredients to complement the forage's shortcomings.
Okay. So essentially you're making sure that these cows are fed the best that they can be fed so that they can get the best price for him.
Yes, ma'am.
In the market. Okay.
We're looking at, it's essentially metrics that we use to measure success, right? So that's value of gain, cost per head day. Those types of calculations are what I do to help him make his decisions. So he makes the decisions. All I do is give him the options.
All right. So Mr. Jack, why is it so important for you to have somebody like Jason working with you?
Well, it's very important, mainly because we take, we manage this operation, and there are so many variables when it comes to animal nutrition. soil health, just all kinds of things that we have to put together. And you know, Jason, I think, is being very modest about what he brings to the table. He's got spreadsheets. He says, yeah, he can help develop that ration. But in the old days, you know, us farmers, we would take the TDN and try to formulate our own rations and come up with the best guess scenario we could. But now with the knowledge and the research and the abilities that Jason has, not only can he put together these type of rations that feed these cattle, but now we can determine basically how much you want to gain a day. You know, you go from the TDN days to the NEG days, and all of a sudden now we can plan on how much weight do we want these animals to gain a day and how long it's going to take. And that's a huge benefit to us.
Okay. And how do you decide which cows get fed what? Do they get all fed the same or what?
So this is where communication is key, right? And the producers in these ranches, they have to give, number one, good information, but they also have to manage those cattle. I always say there's 3 rations that's formulated for every ranch. One is the ration the nutritionist puts together. One's the rationist that gets mixed in one of these mixers. And then the other one is the one the cow will eat. And even though it may be the same ration, at all 3 stages, it may be different. I can put together the most perfect ration, but if somebody doesn't do a good job of putting the right ingredients at the right amounts, then the ration I build on paper doesn't work. And then if we have something in there like an anti-nutritive that makes cattle not want a certain part of it, they may sort and sift it out. Well, then it's not balanced anymore, right? And so that's the feedback that Mr. Jack has to give me is hey, the calves are eating good, or calves aren't eating good, or you know, I think we need to bump up more feed because the calves have gotten bigger. That's a communication that has to happen. It has to be pretty frequent, and it has to be good information. I don't want him to tell me just all the wonderful things. I want to know the bad things too, because I can't fix what I don't know. And then he's going to have limitations that I'm going to have to tell him, you know, we can do this, but you're going to have to give up this, right? And so a lot of times it's a give and take between us, but we have a good relationship that's been going for a long time, so he has no problem telling me when I'm wrong.
And we had to make that adjustment this past time in the preconditioning process. You know, like I say, we use this NEG number, and we would take samples because we have to have samples because he can't deal with information if it's not accurate. So we take these samples and mixing what we think we need to mix that we think the ration is, and our NEG is not up to par where it needs to be, so we make that adjustment with the corn and the DDG to try to bring that gap together to where we want it to be. And we don't have to do that often, but we did this time. Yes. And again, it's just probably the difference in the quality of the basic ingredients that we're starting with.
Yeah, so that's very common. I would say the number one mistake that's made is we don't sample enough, and so an operation this size may have 20 pastures that he's pulling hay from. Well, each one of those pastures, if they cut them 4 times a year, each time they cut it, it's had different amount of rainfall, different amount of nitrogen intake, different things, and so different days of maturity. And it can affect the quality of that hay. So that one pasture may have 4 different hays pulled off of it quality-wise. And then you multiply that over 20 pastures or 20 hay fields. It's a lot of sampling. And so we don't have to do every one of them, but we try to get enough that we feel confident that the numbers, the specs of the hay that we're using are accurate.
So how do you mix the ration every day? How is that done?
So Mr. Jack has a full-time feed guy. Scott Mitchell does a wonderful job. When Jack and I agree on this is the way we're going to do it, Mr. Jack puts it into a spreadsheet, and Scott takes that spreadsheet and starts with his forages. when he's processing the forges in this machine here, he will, as he's processing the round bales and he gets the initial weight on those, the other ingredients are calculated off the base forage weight. And so then he goes with the front wheel loader and adds those ingredients by pounds as needed to make the ration that we agree on. And then he loads the truck, and truck goes out and feeds the cattle.
Okay.
But that's multiple times a day.
Yeah.
He's doing that all day long.
Wow. So what are the opportunities, career opportunities for students in the industry?
As an industry, it really, the sky's the limit, right? I tell students all the time, the degree just lets me know that you're willing to do something difficult and you've got finish, right? So that's what I'm getting out of the degree when I see a degree on a resume. I say, okay, well, that degree meant that they made a goal and they finished their goal. So they had enough integrity to get there. I would tell students that if they have the opportunity to network, they have to meet people, they have to get experience, right? And so experience is one of the things that is invaluable. Nobody can take it away from you. It's a conversation starter, right? So it makes networking easier. That's my biggest thing with students. I like to see a lot of diverse experience on a resume. Typically, if I find one person that's done one thing all the time, all the life, they're probably really good at that. And if I need that one thing, that may be the person that we go with. But if I'm needing, and most jobs are this way, you need a wide berth of ability. And so with that, I need a well-rounded, multi-experienced person with people skills. I tell people all the time, I'm not in the animal field, I'm in the people field, right? I don't get to feed his cattle if he doesn't let me. And so you better have some good people skills to work with, and you're only going to get that through experience and networking.
Hey everybody, we're here in Moulton, Alabama at Hardin Farms, and we're visiting with Mitchell Henry. So Mitchell, tell us a little bit about yourself and where we are today.
All right, so like Megan said, this is Hardin Farms in Moulton, Alabama. We've been here since 1939. My great-grandfather purchased this property from Mr. Byers. Before he purchased it, it was a cotton farm primarily, so there's still a lot of old terraces where I guess in the 20s or 30s they put in terraces to try to mitigate some of the erosion, and so my grandfather turned it into a stocker operation really starting in the 1990s, and we've been doing stockers ever since. Before that they had primarily brood cows. He sold all his brood cows, and so now we're primarily purchasing calves from other farmers, although I have begun a brood cow herd myself, and so I'm hoping to expand that. The cattle prices are higher than they've ever been, and so I'm hoping that I can expand my brood cow herd so I don't have to continue purchasing the high-priced calves.
All right, well, can we take a look at your farm?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So Mitchell, tell us about your herd. It's stocker cattle.
Correct.
So what does that mean?
So what we're doing here is we're purchasing calves from other local farmers, and usually these calves are going to weigh close to 500 pounds, which is a good time to pull them off the mom, and hopefully the mom can recover and that farmer can breed her again for another calf the next year. And so what we do here is we purchase the calves, we'll weigh them on the scale behind me here, and we're gonna try to group them by gender and by size. And so that way, whenever we put them on a truck to send them wherever they're gonna go to the Midwest to be fed, finished on corn or whatever, or possibly even graze somewhere out in the Midwest, that way they're uniform. And then whenever they go to harvest, they can be uniform, and that steak that you get on your plate is a similar size to the next state,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
So the farmer brings in the cows, you buy the ones that you want, and then what happens?
Okay, so from there, we're gonna, if they're not weaned yet, we're gonna wean them. They're gonna have to get over mom, so we'll put them in a wean pen. They'll have fresh water and hay there for a few days. After they sort of get weaned and forget about mom, we'll process them. So we'll run them through a chute, we'll ear tag them, we'll vaccinate them, we'll castrate the bull calves, and then we'll turn them out to a bigger pasture where there's a little more grass for them, and then we'll keep them there about 2 weeks, and then we'll reprocess them and then sort them by weight and by gender at that point. These are the EID tags. So we put this tag in each calf's ear, but basically we can put in their visual ID, which is gonna be this right here. So we put in this tag so we know that that calf's number 630. So I put in 630, and then I scan the EID tag, which I don't have this on, but this number right here will appear right there. I put in their color, their purchase weight, their purchase price, and where they came from. And so anyway, it's just a great management tool. But another way I use it, if, you know, say I put a truckload lot together, well, I bought these calves from all different farms. They've got different weights, they've got different purchase prices. So in order for me to know what that specific truckload lot, how much money I've got in them, in order to figure my break even, I can put this on an Excel spreadsheet, and I can figure out what my break even would be, what I have to sell the cattle for in order to at least get my money back that I purchased them for. So it's a good management tool for that as well.
Yeah. So what are some of the resources that you use to help you further manage the herd?
Yeah, so we talk to our extension agents quite often. Allie's been out here before, moisture testing and feed analysis testing some of our hay. They're really big on rotational grazing, and so we do a version of that here. It's not as intense as maybe what some people might do, what extension encourages, but in order to manage the grass, they preach rotational grazing.
Okay. So Allie, tell me a little bit about yourself and your work with extension.
So as Mitchell said, I'm an extension agent for Northwest Alabama, so I cover 7 counties in this Northwest region, and one of them being Lawrence County, where Mitchell is from. Basically what I do is I'm an animal science and forages agent specifically, so I answer questions like Mitchell might have for his operation in terms of pasture management, feed analysis, or forage analysis, and then also I put on educational programs. So we actually have one coming up called a Grazing Academy, and just like he mentioned about rotational grazing, that's something we're going to focus on, is how to better manage your pasture to really maximize your forage. Especially for someone like Mitchell who's got a lot of cattle on a lot of forage, he needs to maximize his forage as much as possible to be able to provide the nutrients those animals need to make them bigger and better for the feed yard ultimately in the long run. So what I try to do is just make producers' operations better as much as I can with advice, especially coming from Auburn specifically. We want all our answers to be research based, basically, and it does come from personal experience. I run my own herd, so sometimes I try to utilize what I learn into my own, so that way I can relate better to people like Mitchell.
So about how often would you come and work with a producer on the farm?
It varies. Mostly it's over the phone. Mitchell can call me anytime, and several other producers call me quite a bit, so a lot of it's done over the phone. I do come out and do farm visits, especially if I'm looking at weeds that they might have that they might want to do some herbicide control with or some biological control. I actually answered his grandfather had called me one time because he had some forage that he wanted to ID that he didn't know for certain, so I came out here and looked at what he had in a bucket, and tried to help identify what he might could do different to control those weeds. So stuff like that, but it can vary across the board how often I visit. It can be once a month, or it may even be once a year, but I'm just available as much as needed for those producers. And then I try to meet as many producers as I can through our educational programs that we host and try to invite them out, so that way they get to know me and they know that I'm just a phone call away.
So Allie, can you walk us through how you sample forage?
Yeah, so today we were sampling some haylage, and basically what we do is we utilize this forage probe, which every extension office in Alabama should have a forage probe for farmers to borrow and utilize, so that way they can test their hay. They put it on any drill that they might have, and then push it into the rounded side of the bale, because when you do that, you kind of get a test for the whole field from where that bale came from, because they wrap the bale up like this, so that way you get basically the entire field tested by doing that. You don't do it on the flat side of the bale, but you take that, you push it into the bale, and it gives you a little bit of sample like you see here in this bucket of what came from that specific bale. And then I usually try to take at least 10 samples from different bales from the same field. So that way you kind of get a conglomerate of what that nutrients might look like for that hay. And then that way it tells Mitchell, you know, what good quality hay he's got to be able to feed his cattle in the really bad part of winter, when they really need those nutrients a little bit more so. And then if he's got some lower quality hay, he could probably feed that first to those cattle when they don't need as much nutrients at that point.
Okay, so what are you looking for?
So basically you'll take those samples, you'll mix it up into a bag, and you'll send it off to the Auburn forage lab and the soil lab, and they'll test it, and they'll test it for certain nutrients. Basically you're looking for the relative forage quality is the main number that you're going to look at when you get that forage analysis back, and it'll tell you the good quality of the hay that you have. But it kind of gives you the different nutrients that it will have.
Okay, so then you kind of know a little bit better about what's going into your cows.
Exactly.
So Allie, what is the economic impact of cattle in the state of Alabama?
So cattle is about a $2.5 billion industry just in this state alone, and it's huge when it comes to, we're a very biologically diverse state, and so we're able to utilize a lot of the pasture that we wouldn't use otherwise for row crop to be able to raise cattle, which is a wonderful thing. And there's a lot of farmers that do both. They raise row crops as well as they raise cattle, or they raise poultry as well as cattle. And we rank about number 3 in the industry. I know forestry is top of the game for Alabama, farming in general, but poultry is right behind us, and then we're right behind poultry right there. But it's a huge impact on the industry as a whole.
And like Mitchell has been saying, the good times are here for cattle
Yes,
right now.
very
so that's
much
pretty
so.
awesome. Pretty awesome time to be in the industry. So Mitchell, tell me about some of the other partnerships, other people that you work with.
Yeah, so Drew right here is sort of my marketing rep, I guess you'd say, through Elite Livestock. He reps my cattle, just meaning he represents my cattle. So the owners used to run Montgomery Stockyard, but they kind of saw the writing on the wall, and they switched to doing only video sales. And so a lot more and more cattle are being marketed through video. It's very good because you can get buyers from all over the country rather than just the ones that show up to the sale barn that day. So it's an excellent source for me to try to get the maximum amount for my cattle.
Okay, so Drew, tell us a little bit about Elite Livestock and what it is that you do with them.
Yes, ma'am. So like Mitchell alluded to, Jerry Etheridge owned the Montgomery Stockyards in Montgomery, Alabama. And I guess 3 years ago, whether it be labor in the barns or just another opportunity, and I think there's some pressure, outside pressure there in Montgomery. Him and Daryl Stokes moved to Hopewell, Alabama, and started Elite Livestock. They'd always had a video sale. Their big claim to fame was their grass sales coming in April and May every year. They're a bunch of cattle coming off ryegrass down there, and in the barn there they'd sell 150 to 200 loads of cattle on video coming out of off the ryegrass. So they started that, and now we have a sale once a month. We'll sell anyway from a balling calf to a big yearling steer. We'll sell, and we use the online platform. Just recently in December, we merged with a company called Live Ag. It's just a bigger platform, and so it kind of made us even more nationwide. There's 9 reps, I think, that we have running anywhere from Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. But in Mitchell's situation, he's put when we sell him on the video, he's got as much money as he possibly can into those cattle. Whether through his vaccine, through his feed program, he's got the top end of the cost. So what I try to do is market those cattle in a way to get as much back as I can for him in that, whether it's through his vaccine program, his feed program, the condition of the cattle. You know, we fill out a paper that talks about how long the cattle been weaned, how long the cattle have been on here, when they got their last implant, you know, if they're steer, what kind of implant it was, everything that we can to upsell the cattle, we list that, and that goes out in a catalog to all the customers that are subscribed to Live Ag, and anybody that's bought in Live Ag before the sale, there's a big catalog that goes out, and Mitchell will have a lot number and my Hardin Farms. And one thing that we do that other people don't do on the video sale is we advertise Mitchell, and we're trying to build that reputation as we sell his cattle, the Hardin Farms name, build that name up. And so those people that buy those cattle, you know, it's good or bad, hopefully we've done a good job that they're like, hey, when that guy's got cattle again, call me, I want to buy those again, because they did a really good job for them. And that starts all the way from the guy that Mitchell's buying the cattle through to Mitchell, how we represent them, you know, and on through that way.
Yeah. So what is the buyer, like what are the top things that buyers are looking for in cattle?
A condition. The condition's the main thing, because Mitchell can just get these things mud ball fat, and when they go to the next guy, say they go to you, they're not going to go to work for you. So he's got to walk the line of putting as much weight on as he can, but not just overdoing them where they still have some go left in them. Health program, like I said, and especially in this market when the cattle are costing so much, you know, these cattle that Mitchell are going to sell tomorrow are going to cost, you know, anywhere from $2,600 to $2,700 a head. So that guy's going to spend that kind of money. He doesn't need to be worried about their health. So a vaccine protocol, you know, and ultimately, you know, everybody wants black cattle. So the blacker we can get the cattle, the better off they are. We try to stay here between 75% black. You know, I think this load we're selling tomorrow will be 90% black. So, but condition and a good vet protocol is big.
Yeah, so he didn't want to put in a lot more money when he gets it from you. He wants that cow to come ready to go and do what it needs to do.
Ready to start gaining weight,
yeah.
Get healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To each of you, if you could give students one piece of advice of what they need to be doing now while they're still in school, what would that be?
I mean, I think we've said it a couple of times, building those relationships are extremely important. You're going to be working with your peers, just like Drew and Mitchell are working with each other now, and they didn't really know each other in college, but they got to know each other through Auburn. I mean, it's extremely important to work well with people, be extremely adaptable to whatever comes your way, and just build those relationships as much as you can.
Well, Mitchell, I didn't want to go to college. I remember went to Auburn, and I took summer classes my first semester down there, and I was working on a 10-house farm, some family, and I would call every day, I am coming home, I ain't going back, you know. And I think it's okay to know that, hey, you know, I'm getting this degree, but I want to farm. But at the same time, I think that the plan's okay, but don't be so focused on how you're going to get there, and be more open-minded to what, like, there's so much at Auburn, there's so much that it has to offer. And like in Allie's situation, like, she got back to where she wanted to go. She wanted to be with the farmers and being in the fields and doing that kind of thing. And I think you rob yourself of the true Auburn experience by just having blinders on and say, okay, I'm going from here to there, and not being willing to ask for help, or hey, what can I do to get to this point? Because there's so much more to Auburn than just going to school and going straight to the workforce or whatever. Be open-minded to how it don't have to be a straight line.
And I would add to that, get involved with some of the clubs too. Collegiate Cattlemen's, Young Farmers, do they still have Black and Bridle?
They do.
Okay, Black and Bridle, you know, that's where you really get to meet people and get to know people the best, when you have to work together. I mean, it's one thing to sit in class and study together, but if you can go, you know, like, I don't know if Collegiate Cattlemen's caters anymore, but when I was there, we catered a lot. And so that was some camaraderie building, you know, stuff to cater at some big events, you know, and so just being involved is important.
Yeah. And how are you all still involved? You know, I know you're working every day, but I know you're involved in other things. You were like Young Family Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
what are the things that you're involved in outside of work?
I'm the current vice chair of our Lawrence County Farmers Federation. Drew's our Young Farmers Chairman. So we're both heavily involved with the Farmers Federation, and Allie is too, for that matter. And so, you know, that's a big one. I'm on our county soil and water board. So really it doesn't end. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You can get yourself as busy as you want to with these civic opportunities.
Civic opportunities is what a mentor of Mitchell's told him. You got too many civic opportunities. But for Mitch, I mean, it just puts him in a spot to know, you know, the soil and water board. He's on some sort of FSA something.
Advisor, yeah.
So he's just got a first-hand line to what's going on and what's coming down the pipeline. You know, and being involved in Farmers Federation it's kind of like being back in college, you know, because you've got so many people in the same room that are working for the same goal, you know, and it's further agriculture, promote agriculture, and they share the same values. So if you want to know how to be involved, you just look at Mitch, because he does it so well.
But yeah, I'm also the chairman for our young farmers in Colbert County, where we live, and then we're also pretty active with our cattlemen's board for Colbert County Cattlemen's. So we try to stay as active as we can. My husband's also part of the soil and water board, so we try to be as involved as possible. And it helps me with my job specifically, not just farming, but with my job, it helps connect me to those farmers that are involved with those organizations and help them know that I'm a resource to them. So it helps me with both my job and my farm life, thankfully. So it's all interconnected, and you don't really escape work in general, but it's fun for me because it's a lifestyle just that I love to do.
Yeah, I think that's what's so unique about agriculture is that you guys, even though you graduate and go on and do other things, you're still all connected. It's like a big old reunion every time you see you're still working side by side and connecting with the people that you went to college with. Not many college grads can say that. They still connect with the people they went to school with. So that's a pretty awesome.
A lot of times you depend on them, you know, not necessarily, you connect with them, but you also depend on, you know, everybody here is impacted by somebody else that went to the College of Ag at some point in time, you know. So.
Well, thank y'all for letting us see what you do. Mitchell, thank you for showing us your farm and
You're welcome.
talking to us a little bit more about the work.
Enjoyed it.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.